We'll go ahead and begin. Thank you so much for coming out this evening. Certainly we've had a change of weather about every 24 hours. We get something a little different. I got the feeling that's going to continue. So we're going to begin this meeting today with an invocation by Pastor Donald Crosley, and I'll lead the pledge. Please rise. Pastor, please come forward.
Gracious God, our Father, we come in your presence and our heads bowed before thee. We thank thee for all things that thou hast done, all of the things that you are doing. We pray that you would be in the midst here tonight, in the midst of this meeting. God, we realize that we live in some very unprecedented times. These are times where a lot's going on and decisions have to be made. And God, we just thank you for the city of Hot Springs. We thank you for all of the board members. We thank you, God, for what you have done in this city. You have blessed Hot Springs to be on the map as a great tourist city. We just thank you for all things. We pray you'll continue to keep us and guide us from one good degree of grace to the other. Bless all that we're to pray for, even when we don't know how to pray as we ought. We thank you for just hearing our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday. Here. Director Elaine Jones. Director Elaine Jones.
She's muted.
Here.
Okay. Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Carol Weatherford.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. And we have two that are remote, and the balance of us are here in chambers. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from the consent agenda to new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. This time we'll consider approval of the minutes. We had a regularly scheduled meeting of January 4th, 2022, and a specially held meeting on January 11th, 2022. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Director Dobbs-Smith.
Second.
Pardon?
Second.
Seconded by Director Weatherford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have two special guests here this evening, Mr. Alan Spraggins and Ms. Jesse Elder, both of the Downtown Association of Hot Springs, and they have a special report and presentation. Please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Alan Spraggins, president of the Downtown Association this year. Jess Elder's vice president. And 19 years ago, a group of people got together and created the Chili Cook-Off. So we are 19 years. We did not have it last year, but we're back again this year. To give you a couple of real quick numbers, we didn't know what was going to happen this year, but we sold just short of 800 tickets. Had a lot of chili left over, which was good, but we were very happy with that. The reason the Chili Cook-Off was started was to fund Lights for Downtown. Some years in the past, before I got here, the city came in and partnered together. Y'all take care of some of them. We fund some of them. Y'all take care of all of them. I don't put lights up or take them down. But a couple years ago, Anthony Whittington came to us and said, hey, y'all had an agreement with the city. We've kind of gotten off track a little bit, that we would give a portion of the proceeds to the city. So we sat back down, we got together. We didn't want to overstretch ourselves, but we felt we had a duty to maintain the agreement that we started 19 years ago. So what we came up with was we would give 50% of our proceeds back to the city up to $5,000. So after COVID, I'm proud to say that half of proceeds is $2,342 that we would make a check back to the city of Hot Springs to continue the lighting downtown. So thank y'all for y'all's partnership to us, and we would like to present this check. Thank y'all.
As they exit chambers, I just want to say that the Downtown Merchants Association is doing such a wonderful job, and the lights in coordination and with the city of Hot Springs and their staff. So many people enjoyed the lights here in downtown, and tourists and locals alike. So thank you very much. This time we'll hear from our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow, for the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. Got quite a few things to talk about this evening. One is, as you know, in reports from me, we've had several employees that are out either with COVID or quarantined. So bear with us is all I can say to the general public. I'm very proud of the employees that are stepping in areas where maybe they normally haven't worked, and making sure that all of our services are continuing. We had about 8% of our workforce out today, about 10% this past Friday, and that's a lot of employees for within our city family and services. So just really proud of those that have stepped up, and our concern is with those that are out, and hopefully everyone is recovering well. And from the reports I'm getting, it's basically what we've heard from the majority is flu-like symptoms. But anyway, we hope each one has a full recovery and back to work soon. I also like to thank Diablo Coleman and all of those that helped. Diablo is the chairman of the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission here locally, and I want to thank him and all those that helped put on the Martin Luther King Jr. parade and the other festivities that we've had over the weekend. Before I get into most of my report, Mayor, I'd like to ask Gary Carnahan and Denny McFate to come to the podium. They've got two really important positions, gentlemen in positions that they'd like to introduce you to. They've been a long time coming for us, so Denny.
Thank you, sir. First, I'd like to introduce Ron Selvright, our new Public Works Director. Ron, if you would.
Good evening, members of the board. First off, I'm married, have two grown children that are working on their own careers at this time. I'm originally from Wisconsin, where right out of high school I went into the military, spent 4 years in the military in a civil engineering squadron as a heavy equipment operator. When I got out of the military, I went back to Wisconsin, worked construction for a couple years, and due to the weather, I decided to move south and relocate to Arizona where I could work year-round. I then got an opportunity to work for the city of Peoria, Arizona for 18 years. I started as a maintenance worker there, worked my way up to a supervisor, and during that tenure I was able to obtain 2 degrees. One was Associates in Civil Engineering Technology, and the other one is in the business of occupational training. From there, I took a promotional opportunity, and I went to work for the city of Goodyear, Arizona, as a superintendent of the Streets and Traffic Division. And from there, I worked about 15 years, retired there, and relocated to Arkansas, where I took a job with Hot Springs Village. I was the Streets and Sanitation Superintendent before I took this position here.
Very good. Well, welcome.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to working with you.
Good to have you, Ron. And Gary?
So I'm very happy to have an assistant city engineer, and I want to thank this board for supporting that addition to our staff. It's going to be a great relief to me, and I hope that you'll see quickly improved inspections and keeping track of things and keeping projects on schedule. Anyway, you'll see a happier Gary Carnahan for sure around here, so no more whining, right? So anyway, Mike Hill is a licensed Arkansas engineer, graduate of the University of Arkansas Civil Engineering Department, like myself. So anyway, I'll just let Mike, I'm very excited about having him on board. Let Mike tell you a little bit about his degree he's working on now and his work history.
My career path is a little shorter. Started off out of college at BNF Engineering here in Hot Springs, worked for them for a few years. I then moved to RDOT, where started in bridge design, moved over to maintenance, so heavy bridge maintenance, and stayed there until my retirement after 28 years. I'm currently enrolled in a Master's of Public Administration in ASU, should graduate this summer. And wife, 3 kids, all at home, so I've got some time to work until the 12-year-old gets out of or gets to college or something. That's pretty much it.
Well, thank you very much and welcome. We'll all look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Mayor, moving on in the report, want to just thank Sally Carter, Kim Carter, and Trish Nooner for all the work they've done with our warming center this year. They'll be opening that again January the 19th, tomorrow evening, and that should last through the 21st as we see temperatures get down in the teens again. Planning, setup, working the shelter, and breaking it down takes really a Herculean effort, and they are asking for volunteers, and those interested can contact our office here at City Hall, and we'll get them connected to either Sally or to Kim, and you can call our city manager's office at 321-6811, and we'll get you connected. Some Hope Works 2021 highlights. This is a report from Randy Atkinson. We had a total of 261 workers participate in Hope Works in 2021. 17 found full or part-time employment, many of those courtesy of Oaklawn. 3 began college. 1 saved enough money to return to his family in Florida. And a total of 19 tons of litter was collected along Central and Malvern Avenues, Airport and Albert Pike, and on the on and off ramps of the Martin Luther King Expressway. I want to thank Lance Spicer, our deputy city manager. He was very instrumental in getting this program together and worked very close with the Jackson House, and they've continued to be great partners. They're also providing daily meals, clothes, coats, shoes, groceries, IDs, just everything that's needed to go into this program to assist the workers that are working out there. So we appreciate our partner there. On January the 7th, we had 8 officers promoted and 11 had their badge pinned. That was a big day across the street over in Horner Hall. I want to say congratulations to all those new officers, and thank you to those whose service has earned promotion, and to those that are finishing their training. Also want to congratulate Officer Richard Davis, who was recognized by the Police Department's Employee of the Quarter recently, going above and beyond service. So very proud of them, and want to welcome all of our new officers. And one of the things that, as your city manager, I get asked about almost daily, but certainly several times a week, and that's our water supply project. And that's important for me to keep these notes, and I want to make sure the board's aware of where we are on that project. As you know, we have 4 different portions of that: the intake, the raw water line, transmission line, the plant itself, and then the finished water line. The intake, Michael's is scheduled to mobilize in March and bringing the machines in. We should start tunneling in June, and that's going to be something to see. The raw water transmissions, and when I speak in contracts, and I'm using numbers like contract 1 through 5, those are all raw water. So all of our raw water transmission contracts will be numerical, and all of our potable or finished water transmission lines will be alphabetical. So the raw water transmission lines, contract 1 was with Belt. That was from the intake to our current plant on, I guess we'd say Upper Lake Hamilton. At this point, we call it the Washita Treatment Plant, but it's on Lake Hamilton. We have that for a redundant supply of water into our main plant. Should something happen on Hamilton, we'll be able to pull from Washita. Contract 2 actually opened up today. That's for 20,600 linear feet. That's scheduled to come before the board February the 15th. I know staff will be putting together their due diligence and as they look at those bids, and we get that awarded over the next few days, and once that happens, we'll get it in front of the board. Contract 3 is McKee Utility. That's 29,200 linear feet. You may have seen some of this work if you've been out in the 70 West area. They're clearing the easements now. Their pipe is scheduled to be delivered in February. Contract 4 are our 2 lake crossings. We have not started that project yet. It's not out for bid, but we are working with Energy, and want to thank Monty and Gary and Denny for a meeting with Kimberly Bogart this week. I attended that meeting, and we really, I thought, had a productive meeting with Energy, and they're working with us on all of our crossings. So, you know, that's been a very, very long road, but there's a lot of things to look at. We have to cross that lake in several areas, but 2 main ones, and that's the Mazarn and the lake itself. So just glad to be working with Kimberly, and she's given it a lot of time, and we appreciate that. Contract 5 is KJAX. That's 24,200 linear feet. That clearing's almost complete, and about half of their pipes delivered. McKee's, their pipe will be delivered in February, and I sent a drone footage out to some of the board, to all the board members, and that pipe that you saw laying there was KJAX, that contract 5. The plant itself, we've got 2 contracts going on at the plant. Phase 1 is the site prep. That's almost complete. It also includes 2 4 million gallon lagoons for backwashing, and that's pretty much complete, all except the punch list. They were going out there to finish some of that today. Phase 2 is the clear well, which is a 3 million gallon clear well. That's the size of the Cornerstone tank, for those that are wanting to kind of think about what size tank that is, except this one will be in the ground. That's planning. That actually started January the 10th. It won't be complete till the end of this year. Phase 3 is the water treatment plant itself, and that is actually at the Department of Health under review. Once we get that back from the Department of Health, we'll start letting that out for bid. And then finished water line, contract A, KJAX, is complete. Contract B is 39,300 linear feet. That's at the Department of Health this month for approval. Contract C is 9,920 feet, and then D is 700 linear feet, but that's crossing the bridge there at Catherine. So that's kind of where we're at. Proud to say that all of the projects are currently on time and currently within budget, or our projected budget. So, Mayor, that concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Very good. Any questions of our city manager? Thank you. This time we'll address Board of Directors' announcements of upcoming events. Any director have an upcoming event they'd like the public to be aware of?
Yes, Mayor.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to announce a community meeting I'm hosting next week on Wednesday, January the 26th, with refreshments at 4:30 and our special speakers at 5 o'clock at the venue at Forest Lakes Boulevard, 305 Forest Lakes Boulevard, where we will hear from Garland County Judge Daryl Mahoney, our own city manager Bill Burrow, and Dr. Jack Porter regarding the upcoming election on February 8th, and how we can get our roads, streets, and bridges repaired with this Our Roads Now program. And I want to invite everyone to this public meeting and hope you will come and attend and be informed before the early voting starts and ask any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Weatherford?
I just wanted to, some months ago, I'd mentioned that we were going to have a celebration at the airport, Memorial Day weekend, celebrating the 75th anniversary of our airport. Along with, we were going to do a KCBS, which is Kansas City Barbecue Society Championship Barbecue Cook-Off, and giving away minimum of $15,000 to the teams plus trophies. And my daughter is back on staff, so now that we can get back to where we were working, we have, out of the 50 judges that we will require, 37 have already signed up and committed to us that they'll be here for that. We have 20, and we're only allowing 50 teams. We've got 20 teams who have called and committed that they will be here, and now that we've started, we don't feel any problem of filling the 50 team up with, and it will be elite barbecue teams that you would see like on TV. This is gonna be the guys that roll in here with huge rigs and motorhomes and put on quite a show. So that's May 27th and 28th of this year. We have entertainment on Friday night. We've already signed and given our deposit for. I am told that we will have the largest fireworks display in Hot Springs ever, since we can shoot them off the ground now instead of a barge in the lake. And they'll still have the fireworks on the lake the next night, or the 2 nights later. But Saturday night we'll have a huge fireworks show after all awards are given out. And we've started our securing all of our services that are needed and our sponsorship, and just want to invite everybody to put that on your calendar and don't forget to come out.
Very good. Thank you. What's the date on that again?
May 27th and 28th, Friday
Very
and
good.
Saturday. It's Memorial Day weekend.
Very good. Congratulations. Any other announcements from directors? Thank you. At this time, we'll move to the consent agenda. These are of items that are of a routine nature and do not merit individual discussion. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Director
So moved.
Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We have one item of old business, and that is to consider Resolution R21-172, and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Mayor, this is resolution number R-21-172, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 203 Selma Street. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs-Smith. Our staff report will be provided by Kathy Solomon, Director of Planning and Development.
Good evening. 203 Selma is a single-family residence. The structure has been vacant, and we have been working with the owners to achieve compliance at this property since 2009. This project originally came to you on November 2nd, and at that meeting, the family's attorney, Mr. Crawford, requested additional time and that notice be sent to the probate court. And that notification has been handled by the city attorney. And at this time, the request to condemn the property for demolition is once again before you. The owners are deceased. The city has on occasion maintained the property, securing doors and windows and cutting the grass. At this time, there are liens totaling $159. All of the notice and so on was handled by the attorney ad litem, with the exception of the recent notice to the probate court. So we request your approval of this condemnation.
Very good. Well, Any questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you. Did we have anybody sign up on this?
No, sir.
Discussion amongst directors?
Is there anyone present to speak in opposition of Resolution R-21-172, condemning certain real property located at 203 Selma Street? 203 Selma Street. There appears to be none, Mayor.
Thank you. There's no further discussion. Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones. Director Jones.
She's muted.
Director Jones. Director Dobbs-Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. We'll consider Resolution R-22-22, or excuse me, R-22-12, and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution number R-22-12, a resolution expressing support for the Our Roads Now campaign that is promoting passage of the countywide 0.625% sales and use tax to be considered at the February 8, 2022 special election in Garland County, Arkansas. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Trustee, and our staff report will be provided by our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. As our city attorney expressed, this is a resolution for consideration of the city's support, formal support of the passage of the countywide 0.625% sales and use tax that'll be coming on the February 8th, 2022 special election. This is a continuation of an existing tax that we have, or a continuation of the same amount of the existing tax that we have. This tax actually started back in October of 2011 under a special election where voters were authorized to levy a sales and use tax for the Garland County for a new jail. And we had a 3/8 cents for the operations of that jail. Once the jail was paid off, those bonds were paid off. This was again extended by the voters in 2016, this time primarily for the extension of the Martin Luther King Expressway from 70 over to Highway 57 Junction. We learned from Stevens, Judge Mahoney actually learned from Stevens that this current tax was going to expire early, 14 months early. In May of 2023, I'm sorry, we thought it was going to expire in May of 2023, but it actually will expire in May or April of 2022, which will save about $525,000 for the county. When I learned that, and the judge and I were discussing, and we always discuss the conditions of our roads and our streets, and I can tell you, and you hear it as well because you pass it along to me, streets are the #1 complaint that I get in the city of Hot Springs, and we've got some bad roads. Same with the county. #1 complaint that the judge receives is bad county roads. And so we started thinking, how will we ever be able to handle an issue like this? And when we saw that this was paying off 14 months early, it looked like a very potentially good avenue to be able to infuse some money into our own local roads, the ones that we drive and use each and every day, whether you're in the city or the county. Should this be extended by the voters on February the 8th, it'll bring in about $42 million to the county, about $24 million to the city of Hot Springs, and there will also be monies coming into Fountain Lake, Lonsdale, and Mountain Pine on a per capita basis. I can tell you just from the city of Hot Springs, should this pass at our current average cost per mile, which is $134,000, almost $135,000, that will be enough money for us to pay 50% of the streets in the city of Hot Springs. And that's a lot of arterials, a lot of collectors that all of our citizens use and drive, and it's something very similar to Judge Mahoney. The county's got 112 bridges, and some of those were built in 1925, and they were built by the use of old rail cars, the frame of rail cars that they use for the actual bridge, and they're one lanes. He's got certainly a challenge there in the county to deal with that. We're fortunate in the city we have 25. But 15 of those need action or will need action over the next 5 to 10 years. So this just comes to you as a formal resolution supporting the initiative to extend this current tax to better the local roads that we use each and every day.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Burrow?
Mayor Dr. Jack Porter is here with us, as well as Gary Troutman with the chamber. Dr. Porter is actually the chairman, co-chairman of our Roads Now committee, and so I just want to make sure the board knows that Dr. Porter's here, and if you have any questions for him, he's available.
Very good. Did we have anyone sign up on
No,
this?
sir.
No?
No, sir.
Any questions of city manager?
Does the money go into a special fund just for roads?
It's
does
in the
it go into
ballot.
general fund?
It's in the ballot language, so it will be strictly for roads, streets, sidewalks, and bridges. Anything that really makes the street, and it's not for building any new streets. It's for repairing the existing streets that we have today. But that's in the ballot language, and we won't be able to use it for anything else.
Dr. Porter, did you want to say anything at the podium?
I don't think so. Chris Polycron has addressed you on this issue, so I assume you're up to speed on that unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you. Again, last chance. Anybody from the audience? Thank you. Discussion amongst directors?
I have a quick question. You just referenced the ballot language. Is that available on the website now? And if not, when will that specific language be available?
I think it's available now.
It is. Okay.
Should be.
Any further questions amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Dobbs-Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R-22-13 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-22-13, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 located at 108 Ardmore Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
We got Director Weatherford and
Second.
Director Dobbs-Smith, and our staff report will be provided by Director of Planning and Development, Ms. Kathy Selman.
Thank
Welcome
you.
again.
I always like to tell you that condemnation and demolition of structures, homes in our city is the last resort, and this is no exception. This structure has been vacant, and Neighborhood Services has been working toward compliance with this property since 2016. There's significant exterior deterioration to the structure as well as interior deterioration. After receiving a vacant structure notice to repair in September, Mrs. Carolyn Gillespie came into the offices of the planning department and signed a demolition waiver requesting that the city raise and remove the structure. She is unable to do that on her own. Because the co-owner of the property, Mr. Gene Powell, was deceased, a title search was performed and additional notices sent to his heirs. And in subsequent conversations with both his widow and their daughter, neither expressed objections to the condemnation, nor did they express any interest in retaining or improving the property. So we request your approval of condemnation for 108 Ardmore.
Questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this item?
Mayor, if there's no one here to speak, I would call for anyone who's here to speak in opposition of Resolution R-22-13, a resolution condemning certain real property located at 108 Ardmore Street. 108 Ardmore Street. Appears to be none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. The balance of our action items are ordinances, and the first one to be considered is Ordinance O-22-02. And for us to be able to move forward, I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only. So moved. Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules to read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Mayor, this is ordinance O-22-02, an ordinance amending the zoning map from R2 suburban residential to C4 regional commercial open display district for 0.7 acres generally located on Mill Creek Road north of East Grand Avenue, amending the future land use plan map to linear commercial corridor and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would now entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So move.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Trustee. In our staff report will be provided by Director Selman.
Thank you. The applicant is Bruce Simpson, care of Brian Gerke, and they are representing the property owner, Combs Family Trust, care of Kimberly D. Wells. They are seeking zone change to C4, Regional Commercial Open Display District, for property located approximately 750 Mill Creek Road. The site is located on Mill Creek Road, northeast of East Grand Avenue. It's currently vacant. It's not platted. And the 0.7 acres is one of 3 contiguous parcels owned by the applicant. The other 2 parcels of the applicant front Grand Avenue, and they are zoned C4 at this time. Regarding land use, we have C4 to the west and south, suburban residential R2 to the east, and unincorporated Garland County property with no zoning to the north. And nearby are the Knights Inn, Camp Wagatail, and vacant C4 property. Single-family residential uses to the north and east. Other nearby things are Magic Springs Theme Park and Magic Hills Golf Course. The narrative expressed the applicant's desire to construct a convenience store on the subject property. As always, a request to rezone brings the potential for any of the uses allowed in the requested zone, in this case C4. So the applicant is talking about a convenience store, but anything allowed in the C4 zone district would be possible if you rezone this to C4. Planning Commission duly advertised and held a meeting for the purpose of considering the application. After calling for testimony, Planning Commission, by its vote of 7-1, and Commissioner Baker found it to be inconsistent with surrounding land use and was the one vote against, recommended that the board adopt an ordinance because Planning Commission has made a specific finding that the proposed change to C4 zoning and to a future land use plan map designation of linear commercial corridor demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development. The future land use plan map, if amended, would be supportive, and it is also compatible with adjacent commercial zoning along Grand Avenue. That concludes the presentation.
Any questions of Director Selman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Director Garcia?
Yes, thank you. There are some houses around this area. Were there any residents in opposition to this?
There were not.
And the other question I had was regarding floodplain or wetlands there. It looks like it gets wet around that area. I don't know if that's Ron now or Denny. Was that looked at regarding that particular aspect of the property?
The city engineer, stormwater, and Deputy City Manager McFate all were provided the opportunity to look at this. It is not usual for a comment regarding floodplain or wetlands to be considered in a rezoning. That would come at the point where site development plans are more specific. And any approval of a site plan or building permit would consider the floodplain or wetlands situation. So at this point, that is not a standard. The code contains 5 mandatory findings for a rezone, and compatibility with surrounding development is one of those, and that has been found to be the fact by the majority of the Planning Commission.
Okay, so we really don't know if it's in a floodplain or not. We wouldn't know that until they applied for a permit.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of directors to Director Selman? Thank you.
Thank you.
We had one gentleman that signed up to speak on this board action item, and Mr. Brian Gerke. Could you please come forward, restate your name, address, and district, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of the board, Brian Gerke. I reside at 111 Lotus Loop in Hot Springs and District 6. I just signed up in favor of it. I don't have anything more to add other than what Kathy has just reviewed. But my buyer called me yesterday, and he's excited about moving forward with the project. So he's guns a-blazing.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Gerke? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Gerke was the only one who signed up. Was there anybody else that wants to speak on this issue? Thank you. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Now we'll consider ordinance O-22-03, and again, I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title. So moved. Director Trustee, second.
Second.
Director Garcia. We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-22-03, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6049 by making an addition to the Hot Springs Fire Prevention and Building Code, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director
Second.
Holliday. Director Selman's here to provide an overview.
Thank you. The Hot Springs Board of Directors adopted Ordinance 6049 in 2014, adopting the Hot Springs Fire Prevention and Building Code, which incorporated by reference the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, AFPC, that includes the State of Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, 2012 edition, volumes 1, 2, and 3, as amended, the International Fire Code 2012, the International Building Code 2012, and the International Residential Code 2012, as published by the International Code Council, including such appendices thereto as adopted by the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code 2012 edition. At various places in the code, the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code defines or requires that a bedroom or sleeping unit must have a minimum size of 70 square feet plus 50 square feet per additional occupant, must have a horizontal dimension of 7 feet, a ceiling height of 7 feet, a heat source capable of maintaining 68 degrees Fahrenheit, must meet the ventilation and lighting requirements for habitable rooms, and must provide 2 ways out, one to the exterior, usually an interior door and exterior window, but this can also be an exterior door. It also requires an interconnected smoke alarm. It would seem like everybody knows what a bedroom is, and they don't. So because of that, we are requesting that a section be added to Hot Springs Code that says that any habitable space containing a closet shall comply with the requirements of a bedroom. So if you have a room with a closet, then we would require that you have a secondary means of escaping that room. It can be a door to the exterior, it can be a window. And that window is defined as having a minimum size, and that is in the code already. With the current short-term rental regulations and applications going on right now, an emergency clause should be considered, as this addition and clarification would be immediately necessary for public health, safety, and welfare of Hot Springs residents, visitors, and businesses. We ask for your consideration and approval to this amendment to the Arkansas Fire Prevention and Building Code Title 15. Thank you.
Got any questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you. Do we have anybody that wanted to speak on this?
No, sir.
Anybody would like to speak on this item? Thank you. Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted.
Mayor, there is an emergency clause associated with this ordinance. It's found in section 3. I'll read it in its entirety. The emergency clause is hereby found and determined that an emergency exists, and this ordinance being immediately necessary for the public health, safety, and welfare shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its adoption. That concludes a reading of the emergency clause. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So move to adopt.
We got Director Garcia.
Second.
That was kind of interesting, Director Weatherford, because she's just right above you.
Oh.
She was right down on top of you.
Uh-huh.
So we got Director Garcia, second by Director Weatherford. I've lost track of where we're at. Oh, that's for the, to
Emergency.
suspend the rules.
Emergency clause.
Oh, emergency clause, thank you. All in please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Emergency clause is adopted. Now we'll move on to ordinance O-22-04. And again, I'll need a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only. So moved. Director
Second.
Trustee, seconded by Director Weatherford. Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-22-04, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6405, regulating short-term residential rental businesses within the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. Please read by title. Not there. Wait a minute. Is that the
Staff report.
Pardon?
Motion to approve staff report.
part?
You got a motion second to adopt.
To adopt.
So, Mayor, this amendment that's before you this evening for
I'm
your
sorry,
consideration would amend Ordinance 6405 that the board adopted on December 7th of 2021. The current language of Ordinance number 6405 provides for certain exemptions for horizontal property regime property with respect to the licensing requirement. The first exemption is found under Section 4D7. If you're in an R zone, then you are required to receive a special use permit in order to be eligible to have a business license for an STR. That excluded horizontal property regimes within those R districts, the R1, the R2, R3, R4, and RL. If adopted, this ordinance this evening would amend that such that such exemption would be limited to horizontal property regimes that were established pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated Section 18-13-101 at SEEK and filed of record prior to January 18, 2022. The second exemption that was found or is found in 6405 has to do with our cap. In other words, the aggregate maximum allowable number of short-term residential rental business licenses within our zones. We currently have a cap of 50,000, wow, of 500 per calendar year within our zones unless it's in a horizontal property regime. If adopted, this ordinance this evening would have a cutoff on that exemption to the same provision, only those horizontal property regimes that were established pursuant to the Arkansas Code and filed of record prior to January 18, 2022. That is what's on the floor, and if there's discussion, I will attempt to answer any questions if there are any comments.
Any questions of City Attorney Brian Albright from board
Yes,
members?
sir, Mayor.
Yes, please proceed, Director Garcia.
I had asked, and I believe that the city attorney has this information about also including in here about the PDs, because the same that rationale that's given here regarding these horizontal regimes can also be applied to the PDs. And City Attorney, do you have that information?
Yes, ma'am. I think what you're referring to is that planned development zoning districts are not currently subject to a cap, nor are they required to receive a special use permit in order to receive a business license for an STR. And so, based on my conversation with you, I think that it's your interest in having, again, a cutoff for planned development zoning districts to where they would have to be established by today in order to fall under such an exemption. And so, if that is your desire, I can attempt to word a motion to amend on your behalf.
Yes. Do you mind reading that for me?
I will. The first amendment would be to change the first sentence of Section 4D7 such that it would read as follows. Other than a horizontal property regime established pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated Section 18-13-101 at SEEK and filed of record prior to January 18, 2022, comma, a proposed transient use site for such a short-term residential rental business license situated within a planned development zoning district established after January 18, 2022, comma, or within zoning districts R1, R2, R3, R4, or RL, shall require a valid special use permit issued by the city's planning and development director pursuant to criteria promulgated by the city manager. Would you like for your motion to amend to include just that section, or do you want me to go to the next section so that you can
The
make one
next
motion?
section as well, yes, sir.
Very good. So if that were the case, then the other amendment to what's on the floor would read such that Section 4E of Ordinance 6405 would read as follows. Plan development, other than horizontal property regimes established pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated Section 18-13-101 at SEEK and filed of record prior to January 18, 2022. The aggregate maximum allowable number of short-term residential rental business licenses for transit use sites located within a planned development zoning district established after January 18, 2022, or within zoning districts R1, R2, R3, R4, and RL shall not exceed 500 per calendar year. Does that accurately state your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do you so move?
I so move.
Second. We got a motion to amend and seconded by Director Jones.
Yes.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. So we have no.
I'm a no.
We got
Okay.
6 ayes and 1 nay, so the amendment passes.
Further discussion as amended.
Any further discussion?
Well, I'll just share, since plan developments have to go before the planning commission and have to have all kinds of specific information, kind of above and beyond almost any other development, because they're allowable in those zones. I don't think that this is necessary to have information specific to plan developments, because each one will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis as to what's appropriate for the area, what's appropriate for the developer, the individuals who are going to participate, and those adjacent. So I personally just don't think it's necessary to include that in the language of this ordinance. I think that all of those concerns would be covered when the plan development goes before the planning commission.
Mayor?
Yes, Director Garcia.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. I brought this forth from a number of residents that live in residential areas regarding the zoning change to PD, because there was no limit on PD that they could have without going through the special permit process. Just because they're PD, they were very concerned regarding putting condominiums into the PDs. If we're limiting the condominiums with the first part of the ordinance amendment, then why are we not also including what could be in a PD? Because the planned development is not excluded. And everyone understands the very details and review that goes into planned development, but it also provides a process where somebody could get around the first part of the amendment regarding the horizontal regimes. I could not find where there was a reason not to include it. So I don't see that it would be a problem with anyone if they are going through the permitting process for this to be also including the planned development. Thank you.
I have a question for the city attorney.
Director Holliday.
So thinking about the process a company or an individual would go through, when you go to get your PD approved, there are no buildings, no streets. It's typically land that is going to be developed. Your development gets approved, then you break ground. This is talking about a business license that would not be able to be approved and would be subject to special use permit that you can't even apply for until you are done building. So would it not then create an issue?
Cheryl.
Goodness. So would that not then create kind of an issue on behalf of people who would want to develop a property perhaps for this use, because they could build it and be approved for that use from a planning standpoint, but then not be approved based on the business license process, which is what we're discussing here?
Well, I mean, real estate is by its nature unique. So to say that an application for a change of zoning from anything, whether it's residential or commercial, into a PD is only for raw land, I mean, I can't go there with you. Sometimes it's already developed property. I do agree with you that a plan development application goes through a very rigorous site plan requirement. Plan developments are not only textual restrictions, but actual map restrictions and where things are placed on the site plan itself. It is a zoning action which goes through the planning commission and then must come to the board, even, you know, not even just for an appeal, but in order to be enacted, it has to come to the board. So it's a legislative function that the board engages in, much like you're doing tonight.
But if I recall, oftentimes a plan development, part of the plan is the use. So theoretically, if we were to approve a plan development that said its intent was short-term rentals and then disallow the business, does that not create a problem? Because you kind of imply by passing the PD in the first place if they said that was the use.
It certainly would.
Okay.
In fact, you have one development, and I say you, the city, the board, approved one development of a planned development nature that was for the specific purpose of short-term residential rentals. So if that comes to the board and you approve it, you're certainly at liberty to do so.
Right, but my question, I guess, goes to sort of like the circle that this kind of creates. We approve the plan development and somewhat bless that use that still may be disallowed through the special permit process.
Except by virtue of your supreme legislative and executive body of the city, I think that your action in approving a plan development for a particular purpose, if that use is short-term rental, I think that can be granted by this board.
Right, but by putting this into this particular ordinance, it's, to me, it's creating a kind of a circular issue there, because then later on they have to go through another process to get the business license in that area, but we, in theory, would have already approved it.
I can't argue with what you're saying.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
may I be recognized?
Please.
Mr. Mayor, just as the planning director advised earlier on the C4 request, once a zoning change is made, it stays with the land. A property owner can request a zoning change, but that property owner may not be the one to develop that property. It can be sold, but the plan development zoning code remains with that property. And this would allow the new property owner to put in condominiums if they so chose to, even though we are proposing in the first part of this amendment to require them to go through the special use and through the cap as we are the other properties in the residential zoned areas. So if it is on the up and up, what problems are they for them to go through the process as the other people wanting to establish short-term rentals or condominiums in those areas?
Well, first of all, if a planned development is approved by this board, it is limited to the use specified and the use authorized, as well as the site plan. So if someone brings a PD application that this board approves and it's for an office park, and it doesn't happen, they sell the property, the next property owner says to himself he wants to do condominiums. He can't do condominiums. He has to come back to the board because that's a textual change and a change to the site plan that was approved pursuant to the PD. On the other hand, if the property is not PD, let's say it's R4 or maybe RL or maybe commercial, multifamily use is permitted by right. So condominiums, multifamily, as long as they meet the requirements of Article 2 of the subdivision code with respect to their site plan, and all of the building code, fire codes that we've been talking about earlier this evening, then that happens.
Well, as I said, I am bringing this forth for the majority of people I heard from in these lake residential RL areas that have had some problems. And in fact, most of our complaints have been in most of these areas regarding the short-term rentals. And if everything is fine, there doesn't seem to be a problem in having it go up for the special use permit. Just like it's going to do for any of the other condominiums.
Outside of that process, it's subject to the $500 or 500 units, right?
It is,
They're
yes.
part of the 500.
Yes,
They're
sir,
not exempt
because,
from that.
yeah, if the board ultimately adopts this evening, the cutoff date for horizontal property regimes as January the 18th of 2022, it doesn't matter in what zone that HPR is located, it is subject to the cap and it is required to receive a special use permit.
But if it's a PD and they got it for residential, but they determine they want to turn those residential, instead of a subdivision, they want to turn all those residents into those homes that was approved as residential homes into short-term rentals because it's in a PD, then they do not have to apply for a special use permit, and they don't have to, they can go, there could be 230 homes in there and they could still go above the cap. Is that correct?
As 6405 is currently written, that is correct.
And that is the concern of the property owners that and residents in Hot Springs that I have heard from regarding including this into our ordinance. If everything's okay for the PD, it shouldn't be a problem, but it offers the residents more comfort and concern that big planned developments that for residential homes do not all become a source next door to them of short-term rentals.
Any other questions of Mr. Albright?
And this vote will be on the ordinance as amended. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Do we need to open it up for the audience at all?
You certainly can.
Yeah.
especially since there was an amendment.
Amendment. Given the amendment, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this item as amended? We see none. Any further discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Dobbs-Smith,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Holliday,
No.
Jones, Jones,
Unmute.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted, and we have an emergency clause.
Yes, Mayor, it's contained in Section 3, which I'll read in its entirety. Emergency clause, the adoption of this ordinance is essential to the public health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants and visitors of the city of Hot Springs. An emergency is therefore declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its passage. That concludes your reading of the emergency clause. If you would entertain a motion and a second to adopt.
So move. Second.
So we have a motion and a second on emergency clause. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Dobbs-Smith,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Holliday,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye, emergency clause is adopted. We got 3 remaining action items. They're all ordinances, and we'll consider ordinance 022-05, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only. So moved. Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-22-05, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding and accepting a proposal from Sprint Turf LLC for turf replacement at Kimmery Park. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
So
Motion to
moved.
adopt. Director Weatherford, I heard. Seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. In our staff report will be provided by Adam Usery, Director of Sport Recreation. Welcome.
Thank you. Kimmery Park currently has 4 turf softball infields that are in need of replacement. If approved, this waiver of competitive bidding would allow the city to have all 4 of those fields re-turfed before the start of the 2022 softball season. Sprint Turf submitted a proposal to replace turf on all 4 infields for just shy of $390,000. In order to receive this special pricing, there's a requirement for a February start date on this project. With this pricing, we would essentially be receiving a 2-for-1 from our previous estimated cost on this project. Sprint Turf recently completed the installment of turf fields at the Majestic Park. That project was bid out by Hill and Cox, and Sprint Turf submitted the lowest of those 5 bids received on that project.
Got any questions for, on this item for Adam? Questions of Adam from the board? Thank you. Do we have anybody sign up on this?
No, sir.
Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Holliday,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Dobbs-Smith,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye, ordinance is adopted. Now we'll consider ordinance O-22-06, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title. So moved. Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to read by title. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-22-06, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding and approving a contract for professional services with Brown Engineers LLC for remote hosting and generator monitoring. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to-
moved.
Good. Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. Staff report will be provided by Monty Ledbetter, Director of Utilities. Welcome.
Yay, thank you, Mayor. Yes, staff is requesting approval of a 3-year contract with Brown Engineering LLC for monitoring our generators.
We have 29 different generators and backup power pumps throughout the system. We've been using Brown to monitor those through our SCADA system since 2011. We are recommending again that we go ahead and do this 3-year contract. The cost of this is about it's $1,000 per site per year, and we intend to add a few more sites to this, a few more backup pumps and a few more generators in the near future, so we'll probably be adding a little bit to this. Staff is requesting that due to the unique nature of this software and this monitoring system, that competitive bidding be waived and allow us to continue on using Brown Engineering to monitor this. Any questions?
Any questions, Amani? Director Trustee?
Let's have one.
Yes,
You
sir.
said we're gonna add some new sites. Will those be priced at the same price as these
Yes, sir.
existing sites?
Yes, sir, they will.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. Any member of the audience would like to come forward and speak on this ordinance? Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action of the evening is to consider ordinance O-22-07. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules, read by title.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. Have a motion and a second. All those, a motion second to suspend the rules, read by title. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-22-07, an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory located on 13.44 acres at 140 Oak Tree Lane to the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, making same a part of the City of Hot Springs, assigning said lands to a zoning district, revising the future land use map, assigning said lands to a board district, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Thank you.
Wow.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded by?
Second.
Director Weatherford. And staff report will be provided by City Clerk Harmony Morrissey. Welcome.
Thank you very much. The petitioners are Dana and Greg Greason, who reside at 140 Oak Tree on 15.56 acres. I'm getting the map up for you now. As you can see, 2.12 acres of their property are located within the city limits, while the remaining 13.44 are in the county. They desire to include their entire parcel in the city limits. It is worth noting that the Garland County Assessor has administratively divided this into 2 parcels. It is just 1 parcel, but for record-keeping purposes, it does look like it is 2 parcels. Just so you know what you're looking at there on your screen. The Greasons have met all the statutory requirements set forth in the code. They filed their petition with the county clerk and included the map and the legal description that did describe their property as contiguous to the city limits. And there's an additional map there that shows the existing city limits of District 1 in pink and the parcel, or the portion of their parcel, in yellow. The county judge held a public hearing on December 8th. Notice of that hearing was properly advertised in the Sentinel Record once a week for 3 weeks preceding that hearing. There was no one that spoke in opposition of the annexation at that hearing. The county judge granted a decree of annexation on December 8th. The 30-day waiting period closed on January 7th, and no actions have been filed in protest of this annexation. The city clerk's office and the county clerk's office have coordinated with Arkansas GIS as required by state law. The Greasons do desire R1 rural residential designation, which is the default zone. And should the property be annexed, District 1 would be the most proper district, as it is contiguous with property located in that district. That concludes my report, and please note that Mrs. Greason is here with us tonight if you have any questions for either one of us.
Very good. Any question, Ms. Morrissey? Mr. Greason or anybody else like to speak on this matter?
Actually, Mrs. Greason is
Miss-
here.
Thank you.
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. That completes the action items of this evening. We're now into Board of Directors items for discussion. Any director have an item for discussion? Hearing none. Director Jones, you have the final word?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I'm so used to being gone till I'm here tonight, and I move that we adjourn for the night.
Well said. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Director Trustee. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, be safe getting home tonight.
Good night.
They're already home. Good night.
Yes.